Have you ever been in one of those online arguments? You know the one. You're armed with facts, you've got your sources lined up, and you feel like you are absolutely losing to someone who is just spouting complete and utter nonsense. If you've ever just thrown your hands up and walked away because you're just exhausted, well, you've come to the right place. We're about to explain the principle that puts a name to that exact feeling.
Right, let's just jump straight into it with this quote, because it perfectly captures the problem. See, while you are carefully, meticulously playing chess, building a logical, evidence-based case, your opponent isn't playing by those rules at all. They're playing a different game, one where their only goal is to knock the pieces off the board. It's about a quick win, often using logical fallacies, with their own bubble ready to cheer them on. It's a completely different game.
So how do we get our heads around this? Here's the plan. First, we're going to talk about that frustrating game you feel like you can't win. Then, we'll introduce Brandolini's law to give it a proper name. We'll even get into the math that shows why falsehoods have an unfair advantage. But don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. We're going to explore a new strategy, the cognitive vaccine, and then wrap up with how we can actually change the rules of the game.
Okay, section 1. Let's start with that feeling we all know so well. You've brought your facts to the debate, you have sources, you have logic, you are ready to go. But the person you're arguing with is just throwing mud at the wall. And what's even crazier is that some of it seems to be sticking. People are agreeing with them. It is just so draining.
And here's the absolute heart of it. People who argue in good faith get tired. You have a job to go to, you have a life to live, you have other things to do. You run out of energy. But someone who's running on pure, absolute conviction, they can go on forever. And that imbalance, that's what leads to burnout. That's why you just close the laptop and walk away.
So this feeling, it's not just you. It's not just some random frustration you have. It's a recognized phenomenon. There is actually a principle that perfectly explains why these arguments are so exhausting and feel completely impossible to win. It's time we put a name to this problem.
And here we have it. This is Brandolini's law, also known as the bullshit asymmetry principle. It was first articulated by an Italian programmer, Alberto Brandolini, way back in 2013, and it just nails the imbalance of effort. The core idea is simple. It's way, way harder to clean up a mess than it is to make one.
This is it. This is the tweet that started it all. And I want you to pay close attention to that phrase, an order of magnitude. He's not just saying it takes a little more effort. He's saying it takes a fundamentally, almost mathematically, greater amount of work to disprove a lie than it does to just make one up on the spot.
All right, so let's actually dig into the mechanics of this asymmetry. Why does a lie seem to have this built-in mathematical advantage in the digital world? What's really going on here?
So that phrase, an order of magnitude, it isn't just a saying. In science and math, it means about 10 times. Think about that. 10x the effort. It takes literally seconds to invent and post a lie, but it can take hours, sometimes days, of research, finding sources, and careful, patient explanation to properly tear it down. And this chart just lays the imbalance bare. Look at this. Creating nonsense, it's instant. It's based on feelings and beliefs. It costs you basically zero energy. But refuting it, oh, that's slow. That requires evidence and nuance and citing your sources. And the energy cost is through the roof. You can see right here, it's an unfair fight from the very start.
And it's not just a fair fight we're losing. There are powerful forces at play. Falsehoods are super effective because they tap right into our emotions, fear, anger, you name it. They give us simple, easy-to-digest stories, which our brains just prefer over complicated, messy reality. And the whole system is rigged. The algorithms on social media, they're not designed to reward truth. They're designed to reward engagement. Clicks, shares, angry comments.
This quote, wow, it just gets right to the heart of the algorithmic problem. We live in an attention economy online. And what gets attention? Outrage, controversy, that absolute screaming confidence. Meanwhile, a thoughtful, humble, nuanced take on an issue, it just gets lost in the noise. It gets completely drowned out.
So, if we know that trying to debunk every single lie is a losing game that just leads to total burnout, what do we do? What's the alternative? Well, the answer isn't to fight harder, it's to fight smarter. And that means we need a totally new strategy, something you can think of as a cognitive vaccine. Okay, so instead of playing defense all the time, constantly debunking lies after they're already out there, which is kind of like treating a disease, we need to start playing offense. This is the idea of pre-bunking. You're trying to inoculate your audience against misinformation before they ever get exposed to it, so their minds are prepared to spot it and reject it on their own.
And this right here is maybe the most important takeaway of all. In today's world, just being right is not enough. The truth needs to be strategic. It needs a compelling story. It needs an intelligent narrative that's just as sticky, if not more so, than the lies it's up against. You can't just show up to the party with a list of facts and expect to win everyone over. It doesn't work that way.
All right, let's bring this all home with a clear, actionable game plan. If you're tired of losing the old game, how do you start playing and actually winning a new one? How do you put this cognitive vaccine idea into practice?
The whole strategy flips from being reactive to being proactive. First, you create the playing field. You get your clear, well-explained content out there before the nonsense starts to spread. Second, you anticipate the lies. You know the common myths that are going to pop up, so you address them head-on before they can even take root. And, this is the most important part, you change your focus. Your goal is not to convince the troll. It never was. Your goal is to educate and arm the silent majority who are watching the conversation from the sidelines. And by understanding this game, by seeing the asymmetry, and by completely changing your strategy, you get to protect your own energy, your own sanity, you stop playing a game that is literally designed for you to lose, and you start making a real, meaningful impact. You go from being totally frustrated to feeling empowered.
So that's Brandolini's law. It's an incredibly powerful tool for navigating the wild world of information we live in today. But we'll leave you with this final thought. As new tech like AI and deepfakes make it even easier, even cheaper, to create believable nonsense out of thin air, how are the rules of this game going to change all over again? Understanding this principle is about to become more critical than ever.